Hi, folks. Our guest is Keena Pettijohn, CEO and founder of Lifelogixs Strategic Consultancy Group, a company dedicated to financial wellness, literacy, and tech solutions that promote financial wellness and literacy. With over 30 years in wealth management and FinTech, Keena launched her own business at 65 and is celebrating 7 thriving years at 73. She's also the creator of the Sassy Septuagenarian newsletter, where you'll find tons of original content and bold perspectives. And I love this quote that Keena often shares. Never second guess yourself. There are hundreds of people who will do that for you. Oh my gosh. Welcome to the Don't Be Caged by Your Age podcast, Keena. How you
And
doing?
I am so honored and so excited to be here that I cannot believe you said, okay, Keena, I want you on the show. So here I am.
Here she is, everyone, the sassy septuagenarian. Keena, we're all about aging out loud and proud on the podcast. Would you please share where you live
Okay.
and how many years the world has enjoyed the gift of your presence?
I live in Florida. Now, remember, this is the ninth place I've lived, and I am celebrating this year 73 spins around the sun. Woo woo!
All right. And so, what makes you a sassy septuagenarian, and why should more of us aim to be one?
I find that if you're young in brain, you will never age. So every day I am curious. Every day I must learn something new. I find that by stimulating myself cognitively, I'm always on.
I love that. And how do you stimulate yourself cognitively? Because this is the game, everyone. As you age, one, you have to remember you can learn new things. The brain is not just dropping off, it's there to be used. It's a tool. Be curious, put it to work, exercise it. How do you do that?
I actually exercise my brain by doing research 2 hours a day.
What
Now,
kind of research?
it could be a new procedure. It could be a new age tech solution. It could be a new technology, a new way of doing financial planning, a new approach to longevity. So every day I must learn, like going to school 2 hours a day, whether it's at 5 o'clock in the morning or it's at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But I'm a 5 to 5 girl.
5 to 5, girl. What does that mean?
Means that I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I close shop by 5 p.m. We're
There
done.
you go. We're done. Exactly. And see, this is what's so exciting, folks. One of the main reasons that I ended up launching this podcast, my sixth podcast, Keena, was that I got so upset with this meme, this mythology about age and technology, as if we just were stupid after the age of 65 about tech. And here you are, you're firmly entrenched in the FinTech, the age tech, all the tech. Many of us are. And listeners, I tend to spat about this a little too much, I'm sure. But we were building tech companies in the 1970s and 1980s. So tell everybody why you're such a smarty pants tech goddess and how technology can help us age with more independence and joy.
Well, first of all, I never looked at technology as code. I didn't look at it as a mathematical solution. I looked at technology as new ideas, improvements on what was happening in the world. So I didn't go there to code. Went there to learn something new. So when someone said, we use technology to make a house smart, what does that mean? So when someone said, well, it knows when you're sitting up in bed, I'm intrigued by that statement. What do you mean it knows when I'm sitting up in bed? So here I am, lights go on. It also understands that I need to communicate because I hate to be alone. I need to have it automatically call my family, my friends, and I don't want to tiptoe through the keys. So it became a necessity to me. It was not an adjunct solution. It was integral to me. And that's how I think I learned it best.
Yeah, it's a bona fide tool.
Absolutely.
Like you need a sharp knife in the kitchen to chop up veggies and everything. Right? And
Absolutely.
and let listeners know your background is pretty extensive, including early days, which was not easy for women.
Right.
Yeah, in your early days, you have 30 years of experience in wealth management, including early days as a market maker and arbitrager on Wall Street.
Yes.
So you've been there bouncing around with the guys, and they're involved with the early FinTech. So I get that you don't see technology as coding, you see it as the tool it is to leverage whatever it is you need.
When I was younger, people would say to me, well, you're getting older. Now, this was a foreign concept to me. I thought I would never get older until it happened one day. And I started to realize, and it was a multitude of things that happened in one year. I was mobily challenged. I was physically challenged and I was mentally challenged. So here I am. This happened in one year. And I said, all right, how can I help myself? So the first thing that happened was a multitude of seizures. Now, I didn't encourage them, it just happened. The one thing I learned about seizures is that you're stuck inside your body. Think about a person aging. You cannot communicate. So, one of the things that I lost was the ability to communicate, the ability to write my name, the ability to formalize concepts and develop them. So my introduction to technology was a dependency. It was a necessity. And that's how it started.
Oh my gosh. And how long ago was that? And how long did it take you to recover? And oh my gosh, I'm sorry it happened to you. And I'm glad you recovered.
So it started to happen around 6 years ago. It creeps up on you.
Yeah.
And then it starts to, work on you, and you really don't know that you're not capable of communicating. But here I would be on a call, and I know what I'm thinking. I just can't communicate it. And now I cannot type the keys to write my thoughts. I cannot verbalize my thoughts. And that's when I found this thing, talk to text. I realized on Word, it can actually show me the letters. And I go, wow, what a great gift, because I could not do it. So my introduction to technology was a couple things. One is I have seizures. So my ability to stand and walk was compromised. The other thing is because I had high temperatures, I've almost approached brain boil. Now, this is kind of interesting. At close to 105.8, you're not that
Really?
cognitive. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But the interesting thing is, I thought, first of all, at 105, you are delirious.
Of course you are.
Totally. So I had a lot of thoughts about my being. And the funny thing is, I decided at a point of delirium who was coming to my final days. I had a complete conversation. I don't know who they were, what we had to do, who we had to invite, what we had to say. And one of the most important things, and I think this is kind of a joke, don't write my eulogy. I want to do it. So that was a demand in my final affairs. I'll write it, please. So the joke was, as they're doing my eulogy, don't forget to pick up my dry cleaning. So my eulogy starts like that.
And so it's happening over a 6 year period. But meanwhile, you've got a business that you're running,
Yes,
right? And you're involved with. So you're still able to leverage the tech while you're dealing with your physical ailments and
yes,
challenges. And that's so important, folks who are tuning in, that we understand that we can still work with our bodies, work with our conditions, and still be moving our life forward and staying engaged and being curious. But how did you not just want to stay in bed, Keena? Like, what was it about you that got you up every day?
I'm going to share a comment that my father said to me. And now he was a strange person anyway, but he said, when I die, stand me up. So even in the face of death, he was defiant. Now, this was a very important statement for me. Even in the face of death, I will still be able to survive. You're not going to put me in the ground without having a say so. And he said another thing to me, which was very important. They can take your job, They can take your money, they can take your house, but they cannot take your soul. That belongs to you. And that was my keepsake day one. So if I'm able to own my brain,
Yep.
my soul, I will continue to exist in one way or another. Now, I was a philosophy major, and you're going to think this is funny. When Descartes created his philosophy, one of the reasons he proved his existence was I think, therefore I am.
Right.
Cogito ergo sum. So I knew that the power of the mind proved that I was here.
Right. What you just said is so important. You can lose all your money. You got the health challenges. You got all these things they can take away, but they cannot take what's between your ears and in your heart. And that is your determination, your tenacity, your passion, your willingness to stand up again like your dad and say, I'm not going down without a fight, or I've been knocked down. I'm going to get back up again, however you want to put it. They can't take your lived experiences away from you, folks. And this is what I love about that message, Keena, that you're sharing is that, as we age, different things do happen to our bodies and our minds and hearing and all the things. It's how we choose to tell the story around it. And that's what I'm really hearing from you, Keena. Like you've turned this into a superpower around aging.
Well, people get old because they give up. I do
That's,
not.
that's right.
I'm not defined. I'm tenacious. I have the kind of stick to itiveness like glue. So I'm obsessed with solving. I'm obsessed to working through it.
Yes.
To me, a lot of people, as they get older, they become obsolete because they become apathetic. And I care about everything. So that proves that I'm here. So every day I say, well, that's important to me. And you'll see as people get older, they get apathetic. Not
Right. And a lot of that, Keena, I think can be indoctrinated, learned behavior. We saw, or society told us, that when the clock strikes midnight on a milestone age, this is how you're supposed to be behaving. You need to go out to the pasture. What we like to do here on Don't Be Caged by Your Age is to help people have the awareness of the unconscious indoctrinated messages that they've been told over the years about how and who they should be after a certain age. And we're saying, let's dissolve those, let's shatter those ageist beliefs and stereotypes and age related expectations. And what I love about what you're bringing to everyone today, Keena, is that staying curious and don't let anybody tell you what you're supposed to be doing right now. And that apathy, that is fascinating. Why do you think people get apathetic? I mean, I think it's indoctrinated behavior. What are your thoughts about that?
life has beat them. And let me share with you what I think. There are women that have lost a husband and to protect themselves, they start to become not caring. If they became caring, they would become vulnerable. So I think apathy is a direct result of a life hit.
Yeah.
And that's so important that if life does hit you, stand up. Think of a way around it. And again, and they said, I'm not defiant, I'm just tenacious. And I
That's
don't
right.
want to be the last person standing.
But you're also curious. And that's a mind shift. And that's a choice to be curious. I have a good friend, Nancy J. Hi, Nancy J. She always tunes into the podcast and
I
the
need to
video. But she's so curious. And so she may not be out running around doing all the things, but boy, is she on top of her game because she's curious and she's not a reader. So she gets her information from watching videos and TV and informational programs that are brought visually to her. And but also the other thing that's so important is the community aspect. So talk to us a little bit about the Sassy Septuagenarian, of course, but you're calling it the Sassy. How did this come about, Keena? You have developed a community and you didn't even think you were thinking community. What happened?
That's a great question. I didn't know that I was aging. No one ever told me that I would be aging. And then as time went on, things became sore. I became tired earlier. I started to become uncomfortable. I wanted to stay in bed. So aging just comes up on you, not in one day. It's a multitude of events. And the reason I wrote the Sassy, or was called the Sassy Septuagenarian, even I have a hard time saying it, is that I knew that there was a longevity economy. And I don't mean to become a statistician right now. I knew that people were living longer. I also knew that there were children of aging parents, and there were concerns about that. So when we were doing legacy planning, it wasn't for one generation, it was for three. And that is the epiphany that I started to see. Parents were living longer. The children of aging parents were living longer. Everyone was living longer. And as they're going through different mindsets and different milestones, different things are happening to them. So I, of course, thought I would always be in my 40s. I don't know who that person was that became in their 70s. I don't even recognize them. So I started to realize it was very interesting. How did I know I was getting older? I went to the Social Security office. I had no idea what they were going to say to me. They said, "You know what? You're at full retirement age." I said, "What?" I didn't put that connection together, but I knew I was eligible for Social Security. But
Yeah, but you had reached 70, which is the full retirement age.
Correct, but I didn't put the connection together. So when I started, and this is an interesting, I went to a wealth management conference, and this is where the sassy comes out in me. I'm meeting at a wealth management conference, and one of the gentlemen that works for one of the vendors started talking to me and started talking to me like I was put out to pasture. And of course, I'm going to be flippant. I have a great ability to be comical. And I said, "Young man, I am living proof that dinosaurs do exist."
And how did he respond?
He looked at me, and because I caught him off guard. And again, he was a young man, which is typical in the technology business.
Yep.
Typical in terms of who's starting, an organization, technology, not some 70-year-old female. It's not happening that way. So he started to look at me, and I, of course, said to him, again, holding my ground, I said, "Young man, do you know who you're talking to?" And that was the conversation, because I had years of experience, even though he had the entitlement that I didn't. He was 6'4" and I was 5'2" and pushing it. So again, there's a height differential.
And there's a gender differential.
Correct. So again, the sass came up because one was I felt that I was entitled to give my opinion. I was not done yet. Also, and this is not something that someone said to me, I'm somewhat intelligent. I can do research very quickly. You don't have to give me a spreadsheet. I'll automatically do the numbers in my head. So in my world, when I was the only woman on the trading desk, that was great. So if you're in a fast market and a client calls you and said, "Quote it," you don't have time to say, "Hey, my name is Keena Pettijohn. I live in," forget it. It's quoted. So everything was very fast paced to me, and that kept me going. So again, if you're lively and you keep your brain exercise, you could hold with the best.
That's right. And technology is not something to be feared. It's there to embrace and also really add value to your life. A lot like this conversation is hopefully adding value to your life. And
And
if you're feeling really good about this, take a moment to support the Don't Be Caged by Your Age podcast by buying me a quote cup of coffee. That's right. For just $5 a cup, you can sponsor the podcast and help amplify inspiring voices like Keena, or break age related stereotypes, reach more listeners worldwide, and help stop this epidemic called retirement, where people are fading quickly and costing societies billions. Let's keep everybody engaged. Let's keep aging a journey of joy and possibility. Visit buymeacoffee.com/Andy Lyons. Every cup makes a difference, and I will clink, clink, and cheer you for your contribution.
Coffee. This one's for you, Ande.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is aging in place. What does that mean? And talk a little bit about your thoughts and how we can make it possible for more people.
Well, aging in place, and that's a great question, by the way, because a lot of people in the wealth management industry do not think of aging in place as a financial event. And it is. Just like you plan for retirement, aging in place is a financial commitment and it should be done early and often. So when you say, you know what, you're not going to put me in a home, I'm not going to live with my daughter, I want to modify this space so that I can comfortably walk. I can have different assistance when I go into the shower, bars. I have to have that lip removed so I don't trip and fall down. So, aging in place, I think, is a tremendous amount of comfort as you age. You have your pastors or you have your rabbis, you have your friends, you have your family, your favorite grocery stores. It's not to be disturbed. And it really is a very significant part where you say, you know what, I'm staying right here where you're familiar.
Right. It makes sense. I mean, I know we've gone through many years, decades actually, of setting up retirement communities, the 55 plus community, and all that. But also, I know that if you've been part of a community, a town, the same church, as you said, the same grocery store, you know where everything is, that town and that community should make it welcoming for someone to age in place. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, the price of homes are prohibitive. So let me bring a point out here. Everyone would like to have a little white picket fence, and the cost of owning a home is exorbitant. So, what I find is that aging in place is not just you, it could be three generations at one time. And that affords you to stay in place. It affords the opportunity for your children to live near you. They may be caregivers or whatever. And it may afford you to be near your grandchildren. So aging in place is a very, I think, smart way to stay connected to your family.
I love this something fierce because I'm from the Boston area. So we're all about the 2 and 3 family homes. And back in the 1900s, this is what was done. You
Correct.
had, the grandparents from the first floor, the middle and their children were on the second floor. And then the third floor were for the younger generations. And each floor had its own kitchen, bathroom,
Right.
living room, bedrooms, just fine.
And we're
And
living longer now. So think about it as, if we would have a shorter lifespan, it wouldn't be as demanding, but we are living longer. And we know that there's the lifespan that is extended, but not our health span. So the odds of us being terminally ill 12 years in that lifespan is very, very common. So can I afford care every day? Probably not. Caregivers are expensive and I may not have that type of budget, but it's easy enough for me to pick a family member and say, listen, I know it's expensive for you to live alone. Come live with me. So it becomes an economic necessity, a psychological, and a medical to have all generations in one zip code.
but we've seen a lot of independent living and encouragement to be, quote, independent instead of interdependent. And what you're talking about is so important. It's that, yes, it takes a village to grow and age and do all the things. And what you've done is beautifully reframe the story we tell ourselves about aging in place, changing the way that looks and feels so that we're not caught up in, I want to be in the home I raised my children in, and they've gone off and who knows where they are, but to where you have community and intergenerational community is something I'm a huge fan of. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with the intergenerational communities? in building the Sassy Septuagenarian, but also just how you work in the world.
So I was raised very traditionally, and it was known that the children took care of the parents. This was the norm. It wasn't as if you were going to go away and forget about them. So, of course, the older daughter was most likely to take care of the aging mother.
Right.
And the aging mother was cared for in a two-family home. This is the way it was. So if they were not capable financially of taking care of themselves, it was beholden of the older daughter to start kicking in. So I was raised in that situation. It was part of our religion. It was part of our community. Keep in mind, I'm in the 70s now. I wish I was younger, but this is the way we were raised.
Yeah.
Holidays, we were all together. So it was not like we were going down the street to visit grandma. She was right there.
Oh, that's beautiful because what we've seen over the last 30 to 50 years is this warehousing of older adults. We are in this society where we just want the new. We don't want the old. And talk
I
about
think,
that. Yeah.
I think, well, number one, to understand what's the requirements of a caregiver
Yeah.
and what kind of stress it creates on the caregiver, the family, the time, because some of the caregivers are not around the corner. They have to get on a plane. They have to pack up, they have to
Right.
leave their family. And it may be typically the older daughter that's losing time on the job. So it has an economic impact as well. So caregiving is not a one and done. One of my clients has an entire analysis of, are you prepared to be a caregiver? It's not something that naturally comes to you. It is not a 9 to 5 job. It is a full-time job. And the other factor is it creates a tremendous amount of stress on the family, on the relationship. So not everyone is built to be a caregiver or to make that decision about, can I be a caregiver? I was a caregiver very early on, and this is, I think, a very unique story. I was a caregiver at age 16
Why?
because my father had a mental breakdown. And my mother, who was raised very traditionally, could not handle what it was like to take care of a mentally ill spouse.
Wow. Yeah.
So, not quite why I knew I was capable of doing it, but I understood where he was coming from. And when you have someone in the household that has mental challenges, they become very irked very quickly. They have meltdowns very quickly. So you have to be very, very aware of what you can or cannot do for them. They thrive on routine. So if you're late with dinner, that irks them. So I became very aware of what had to happen at age 17. Nothing can be upsetting. So anyway, I understood that. So if someone says, what is it like to be a caregiver? I could probably do it.
Yeah. But it is still be hard. And what I love is that you started Lifelogixs at the age of 65. Tell everybody a little bit about how you serve the world with Lifelogixs.
So Lifelogixs wasn't something I wanted to do like, oh, let's open up my organization. What happened was I was a very high level executive, highly compensated, highly visible. And then like all things, they come to an end, but they don't give you time to prepare for it. They come in as a tribe and say, we've made the decision, the business model has changed, and you're no longer with us as of that month, as of that week. So now you're thinking of like, okay, well, I had an incredible W-2. I have to think fast on my feet. So Lifelogixs became a company of necessity. And I even put in today's LinkedIn, we do have more older people in the workforce, but they are not hiring at kind of the age of 65 and over is not those that they're hiring. So you're a minority in the hiring world. So it stops. And I said, okay, well, who's going to hire me at age 65? No one.
Not as an employee.
So that's how Lifelogixs became. I had tremendous amount of startup information. I had done 30 different integrations. I had done due diligence. I was a securities principal. So I had a lot of alphabets. But to do that for yourself is a whole other ballgame. And I actually had a gentleman who's very successful on this day. He says, Keena, what is your value add? I don't know what you mean. What differentiates you from the competition? All right. What do you mean? So, what are you bringing to the table in terms of something different? How are you beating your competition? So, when someone says to me, what problem are you solving? I knew that in seconds because that was part of my value add. So, what is out there that differentiate your solution from everyone else? That was out there in seconds. And I learned that very quickly later in life because I had to survive. I
Right.
was dismissed. I was literally walked off of my job, and I'll never forget it. Remember, it was a very tight financial institution. You do not go back for your personal belongings. The day that we give you warning is the day that you go out to the parking lot, period.
I think our age group, the boomer age group, is more valuable than ever, not as you said, a W 2, but as a 1099, coming in.
I I have an article that I wrote, and it's basically leveraging the power of the septuagenarian. I can't say it, but anyway, understand we have the experience, we have the wherewithal,
Yeah.
period. So I believe that we have an untapped resource. Take those 65-year-olds. I also wrote an article from an employer's perspective of reverse mentorship. So you take those experienced people, they can work on a remote marginal base, fractional, I call,
Yeah,
and then you
fractional, absolutely.
team them up with a youngin'. And that way you're doing purposeful hires. The younger person saying, I didn't think of that. They don't have the business acumen and they're immediately getting on their feet very quickly. So I am a true believer in remote fractional work for a reverse mentorship. I'd be the first one to say, do it.
I love that idea. Something fierce, Keena. My gosh, we're just taking away so much great information from you today. Keena, where can we stay in touch with you, connect with you, and any last thoughts you'd love to share with our wonderful listeners and viewers of the Don't Be Caged by Your Age to help them learn new things, still feel vibrant and connected and visible and contributing to the world?
Well, I am the only Keena Pettijohn you're going to meet for weeks and months and days. So if you were going to say, I want to meet with Keena Pettijohn, if you go on LinkedIn, first of all, my first name is unique. Pettijohn is also unique. And the cool thing is I've got two E's in my first name and two T's. And there's a way of remembering me. So again, Keena, there's not a lot of them. And by the way, two vowels together are called a diphthong. So I also have that. But go on LinkedIn and just look for Keena Pettijohn, and then you'll see all of the accolades, Lifelogixs, and all that stuff. That's
Wonderful. Yeah, and I'll have the links in the show notes, everybody. And what are some final thoughts that you'd like to share as a seasoned septuagenarian? You've been at it for 3 years now, and you are very sassy and you're very savvy too. What advice do you have for other older adults to help make this time period
this is my
more
favorite quote I'm going to leave you with.
okay,
Don't second guess yourself. There are hundreds of people that will do that for you.
right? That's how we started. And the conversation was with that quote. And absolutely, you can do this, folks, and you are needed. I always love to wrap things up, Keena, by reminding folks, we're pro aging here on the Don't Be Caged by Your Age. We believe you can do it. You can do new things. You can do hard things. You have lived experiences that are valuable. You don't have to, if you don't want to, work a intense hustle 60-hour week, but you can carve out something that's meaningful to you when you take the time to think about what you want to do, what lights you up. Where are those matches for what lights you up that you're passionate about and what people will pay you for? And that's what's important, right, Keena?
Well, we need more of yous. You are absolutely engaging and warm and infectious in a good way. So if we had more people like you, people would take more chances and investigate more opportunities. We need more of yous. We're not that self-assured. And when someone says, you can do it, we latch on to it. So thank you for what
Wonderful.
you do.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for joining me and saying yes when I reached out to say, come on the podcast, please, Keena. I want to learn more about you and how you are glowing in the world. And listeners and viewers, please remember you have so much more to give. You really do. You could end up living another 10, 20, 30 years. This is what Keena and I were talking about, the whole longevity thing. What are you going to do with those precious years? Do not let those internalized ageist beliefs prevent you from pursuing new dreams, from being curious and finding more opportunities out there to share your glow with the world, whatever that looks like. Until our next episode, I'm waving from Boston and wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Thank you, Keena.
You. It's an honor and a pleasure.
It was so much fun hanging out with you. Thank you so much. Listeners, I'm so grateful you carved out time to tune in and grab the gems from this delicious conversation. Be sure to hop on over to Don't Be Caged by Your Age on LinkedIn or Instagram to share your thoughts about ageism and unretirement. Because in this space, your age doesn't define you, it refines you. If you are inspired by a story you hear, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast. To receive an alert whenever a new show is posted, please join the Don't Be Caged by Your Age newsletter. Every month, you'll receive links to the podcast and helpful resources for creating possibilities for your unretirement days. Thank you for tuning in. I am so excited to hear how you found ways to thrive after 65. Waving from Boston, cheers.